Hello, my good friends. How are you today? May God bless you all. Ethan Caldwell stood alone in his penthouse, 30 floors above the glittering sprawl of Midtown Atlanta. The city stretched out beneath him like a living thing, headlights snaking through Peachtree Street, neon signs flickering over bars and high-rises, a pulse that never stopped. It was just past midnight, and the air smelled faintly of leather from the Italian sofa and the sharp tang of the bourbon he'd been nursing all night. On the wall, a massive Rothko painting loomed, dark reds and blacks bleeding into each other like a wound that wouldn't heal. He'd paid 7 figures for it at an auction in New York, back when he thought art could fill the hollow space inside him. Now it just looked like shame staring back. The envelope sat on the glass coffee table, its contents spilled out like a crime scene, yellowed property deeds, newspaper clippings, a typed memo on Caldwell Properties letterhead. Ethan's hands shook as he picked up a grainy photo. A row of shotgun houses in West End, circa 1955, families on porches with kids playing in the dirt. Scrawled in the margin, in his late grandfather Walter's tight script, acquired $500 each, prime for redevelopment. Next to it, a modern shot of the same spot, now a gleaming condo tower with a Caldwell logo on the leasing sign. His stomach churned. This wasn't just business. This was theft, dressed up as progress. He'd gotten the package an hour ago, slipped under his door with no return address. But he knew who sent it. Lena Harper's handwriting was on the note pinned to the top. Know who you're really with. No greeting, no signature, just those 5 words, sharp as a blade. Lena, the woman who'd walked into his life 6 months ago with her quiet confidence and eyes that saw right through him. The woman he'd fallen for, hard, before he even knew what falling meant. And now this, proof that everything he'd been raised to be proud of was rotten to the core. Damn it! Ethan hurled the bourbon glass across the room. It shattered against the floor-to-ceiling window, amber liquid streaking down the glass like tears. He paced, tugging at his hair, the $200 haircut unraveling under his fingers. The penthouse was a museum of his life. Marble counters, a wine fridge humming softly, a garage downstairs packed with a Porsche 911, a Tesla, and a vintage Mustang he never drove. Forbes had called him a business prodigy at 32, plastered his face on their cover with a headline, "The Caldwell Heir Redefining Southern Wealth." That was 3 years ago. Now, at 35, he felt like a fraud in his own skin. He grabbed his phone, thumb hovering over Lena's name. No signal bars, typical for a storm rolling in over Atlanta. He tossed it onto the couch and dialed Jim Dawson instead, his godfather, the only person he could trust not to sugarcoat the truth. The line crackled before Jim's gravelly voice came through. "Ethan, it's damn near 1 a.m. What's wrong?" Ethan's throat tightened. "Jim, I just got something. Papers, about the family, about what Grandpa Walter did, hell, what we're still doing. Redlining, kicking folks out of their homes, bankrolling racist politicians, it's all here. If this is true, everything I've got, every dime, it's built on blood." Jim sighed, long and heavy, like he'd been waiting for this call. "I've been wondering when you'd see it, kid. Those golden handcuffs you've been wearing, they've got a price tag most folks can't imagine." "What do I do, Jim? If this is who we are, if this is me, what the hell am I supposed to do? I mean, who am I if I'm not a Caldwell?" "You've got a choice your daddy never dared to face," Jim said, his voice steady. "You can keep pretending it's just business like Henry does, or you can burn it all down and build something real. But I'll tell you this, it'll cost you everything you thought you wanted." Ethan sank onto the couch, staring at the mess on the table. The storm outside was picking up, rain lashing the windows, thunder rumbling like a warning. He thought about Lena, her laugh over beers at a dive bar in Little 5 Points. The way she'd challenged him in board meetings. The red dress she'd worn to that gallery opening where they'd first let the world slip away. She'd seen something in him worth believing in. And he'd let her walk into his family's lion's den without a word about the skeletons in their closet. 6 months ago, he'd been a different man. Back then, Ethan Caldwell was untouchable. A billionaire by 30, jetting between Atlanta, Miami, and LA, closing deals with a nod and a smirk. He'd grown up in a Druid Hills mansion with a silver spoon that turned into a golden empire. Private schools, frat parties at UGA, a corner office at Caldwell Properties handed to him like a birthright. His dad, Henry, had drilled it into him. The Caldwell name isn't just inherited, Ethan. It's earned, every generation. Earned. What a joke. He'd never earned a damn thing, just followed the script they'd written before he was born. It started on a Tuesday, one of those sticky Georgia afternoons where the humidity clung to your skin. He was in the boardroom, half listening to some consultant drone on about tax breaks, when Lena walked in. Dr. Lena Harper, environmental economist, all brains and no bullshit. She didn't fumble with her slides or kiss his ass like the others. She just stood there, 5'6" in a charcoal suit, her natural hair pulled into a neat bun, and said, "I'm not here to tell you what you want to hear, Mr. Caldwell. I'm here to tell you what you need to know." And then she tore his company's green initiatives to shreds with data and a smile that dared him to argue. That was the beginning, the first crack in the fortress he'd built around himself. But tonight, staring at those papers, he realized the fortress wasn't protection. It was a prison. His family hadn't just played the game. They'd rigged it, stepping on necks to climb higher, and he'd been too blind, too proud to see it. Ethan stumbled to the bathroom, splashing cold water on his face. The mirror showed a stranger. Dark circles under blue eyes, stubble creeping in, a man unraveling. "Who are you?" he muttered, gripping the sink. "Who are you if you're not this?" The question hung there, unanswered, as lightning split the sky outside. He didn't know it yet. But this was the moment everything would change. The moment he'd have to decide, keep the crown and the chains, or break free and risk losing it all. For Lena, for himself, for a truth he couldn't unsee. Hey, y'all. If you're liking Ethan's story so far, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below. Have you ever faced a truth that turned your world upside down? Let's talk about it. 6 months before the night Ethan's world cracked open, life was a well-oiled machine. Picture this. A Tuesday afternoon in late September, the kind of sticky Georgia heat that makes your shirt cling to your back. Ethan Caldwell sat at the head of a polished walnut table in the Caldwell Properties boardroom, 30 stories up in a glass tower overlooking downtown Atlanta. The air smelled of espresso from the Keurig in the corner and the faint musk of money, old money, the kind that didn't need to shout. He was 35, sharp in a tailored navy suit, scrolling through emails on his phone, while some nervous consultant stammered through a PowerPoint about tax incentives. Another day, another dollar. Except for Ethan, it was more like another million. The room was a mix of suits and ties, all eyes darting to him every few minutes, waiting for a nod or a frown. He barely looked up. Why would he? He'd heard it all before. Numbers, projections, buzzwords like synergy and ROI. His dad, Henry, had built this empire, and Ethan had been groomed to run it since he could tie a tie. The Caldwell name was a key that unlocked every door in Atlanta, from the governor's mansion to the VIP list at the Fox Theater. He didn't need to sweat the details sweated for him. Then the door swung open, and everything shifted. She walked in, Dr. Lena Harper, 5'6", with a presence that filled the room like a cool breeze cutting through the humidity. No flashy heels or jewelry, just a charcoal suit that hugged her frame, her natural hair swept into a tight bun, and a pair of diamond studs glinting under the fluorescent lights. She carried a slim laptop under one arm. No notes, no fuss. Ethan set his phone down without thinking, something about her pulling his attention like a magnet. The other consultants had tripped over themselves to impress him. Lena didn't even glance his way. "Afternoon, everyone," she said, her voice smooth and steady, with a hint of a Chicago lilt. She plugged her laptop into the projector, the screen flickering to life with a single slide. Sustainable investing, beyond the PR stunt. "I'm Dr. Lena Harper, and I'm not here to tell you what you want to hear, Mr. Caldwell. I'm here to tell you what you need to know if you're serious about this green initiative crap, and not just slapping a solar panel on a condo and calling it a day." A ripple of silence hit the room. Ethan's VP, a balding guy named Greg, coughed into his fist. Nobody talked to Ethan like that. Not in this building, not with his name on the letterhead. He should have been pissed. Instead, he leaned forward, elbows on the table, a smirk tugging at his lips. "Crap, huh?" he said, locking eyes with her. "You're saying my company's full of it?" Lena didn't flinch. Her brown eyes met his, steady as steel. "I'm saying your sustainability plan is a band-aid on a broken system. You're greenwashing a portfolio that's still 80% tied up in fossil fuels and luxury developments that price out half the city. If you want real change, stop clapping for half measures and start doing the work." She clicked to the next slide. Charts, data, a breakdown of Caldwell's latest projects. "Here's the math. You tell me if I'm wrong." Greg shifted in his seat, ready to jump in, but Ethan waved him off. "Let her finish," he said, his voice low. For the next 20 minutes, Lena dismantled their strategy with surgical precision. She threw around terms like externalized costs and carbon offsets, like they were second nature, backing every jab with numbers that made the room squirm. She wasn't selling a pitch. She was teaching a lesson, and Ethan, damn it, he was hooked. When she wrapped up, the silence was thick enough to cut. Greg tried to lob a question, something defensive about market realities, but Lena shut it down with a calm, "I'll get to that on slide 16 if you can hold off." Ethan caught himself grinning. She was good, better than good. She was real. "All right, Dr. Harper," he said as the team started filing out. "Stick around a minute." His assistant, a perky blonde named Taylor, shot him a surprised look. Ethan didn't do one-on-ones with consultants, too busy, too above it. But something about Lena made him want to dig deeper. The boardroom emptied, leaving just the two of them, the hum of the AC filling the space. Lena crossed her arms, a flicker of wariness in her eyes. She'd dealt with guys like him before, rich dudes who blurred the line between professional and personal. "What's this about, Mr. Caldwell?" "Call me Ethan," he said, standing to match her height. "That was the most honest take I've heard in this room in years. You're not afraid to call it like it is, are you?" Her lips curved into a small, genuine smile. Nothing forced. Just a flash of warmth that hit him square in the chest. "I don't see the point in wasting time. If you're serious about sustainability, I can help. If not, I've got better things to do." "I'm serious," he said, maybe too quick. "I want you on this, long term. Weekly meetings, consulting gig, whatever it takes. You in?" She studied him for a beat, like she was weighing his soul against her better judgment. "I thought you might say that." "All right, Ethan. I'm in. But don't expect me to go easy on you." "Wouldn't dream of it," he shot back. And there it was, the first spark. Not love, not yet, but something alive, something that made the air feel electric. Over the next few weeks, those meetings became the highlight of his days. They'd sit in his office, glass walls, skyline views, Taylor popping in with coffee, and argue about everything. Lena pushed him hard, tearing into his assumptions about business, wealth, the whole damn world. "Your experience is solid, Ethan," she'd say, leaning across the desk, But it's narrow. You've only ever seen life from the penthouse. Try looking up from the street sometime." He'd fire back, half defending his empire, half loving the fight. "You think I don't get it? I've closed deals you wouldn't believe." "And I've worked 3 jobs to pay for grad school," she'd counter, unflinching. "You don't get it 'cause you've never had to." It wasn't just her brain that got to him, though, God, she was smart. It was the way she carried herself, like she didn't need his approval or anyone's. She'd grown up in Chicago, she told him once. South Side, parents both teachers, scholarships and grit getting her through UChicago and a PhD. She'd turned down Wall Street to work with nonprofits, said she wanted her numbers to mean something, not just pad some CEO's bonus. Ethan couldn't wrap his head around it, walking away from money like that. But he respected it. Hell, he envied it. One late afternoon, after a meeting ran long, he caught himself staring as she packed up her laptop. The sun was dipping low, painting the office gold, catching the curve of her cheek. "You ever take a break, Lena?" he asked, leaning back in his chair. She glanced up, smirking. "You ever stop chasing the next big thing?" "Touché," he laughed, and for the first time in years, he felt something real stirring. A hunger, not for power or profit, but for her. For whatever this was becoming. Back then, he didn't know where it'd lead. Didn't know she'd crack his world wide open, force him to face the ugliness he'd been raised to ignore. All he knew was that for the first time in forever, he wasn't just going through the motions. Lena Harper was a spark, and he was damn near ready to let it catch fire. 3 months into working with Lena Harper, Ethan Caldwell's life was starting to feel like it had a pulse again. The weekly meetings had turned into late-night debates over takeout, sometimes greasy wings from JR, crickets, sometimes pho from that hole-in-the-wall spot in Chambly. He'd catch himself grinning like an idiot when she'd call him out on some half-baked idea, her voice cutting through the bullshit with a precision that made him want to be better. It wasn't just business anymore. It was personal. And damn if he didn't love every second of it. So when the annual Caldwell Foundation Gala rolled around, a black tie affair at a swanky Buckhead mansion, he didn't think twice about asking Lena to be his date. "It's just a charity thing," he'd said, leaning against her desk one Friday afternoon, all casual charm. "Good food, decent music, and I could use someone to keep me from dying of boredom. You in?" Lena raised an eyebrow, her pen pausing over a stack of papers. "You sure you want me there, Ethan? I'm not exactly the Gala type. I don't even own a dress that fancy." "You'd outshine 'em all in jeans and a t-shirt," he shot back, grinning. "Come on, say yes. I'll owe you one." She laughed, a real laugh, warm and unguarded, and nodded. "All right, fine. But if I step on your toes during the waltz, that's on you." The night of the gala, Ethan pulled up to Lena's place in Little 5 Points in his Porsche, the engine purring low against the funky backdrop of tattoo parlors and vintage shops. She stepped out in a deep red dress that hugged her curves like it was made for her, her hair loose in soft curls, those diamond studs catching the streetlights. Ethan's jaw damn near hit the floor. "You clean up nice, Harper," he managed, opening the passenger door. "Don't get used to it, Caldwell," she teased, sliding in. "This is a one-night-only deal." The Buckhead estate was dripping with Old South money. White columns, manicured lawns, a chandelier in the foyer that probably cost more than most people's houses. Inside, the crowd was a sea of tuxedos and sequins, champagne flutes clinking over the hum of a string quartet. Ethan's mom, Maggie, greeted them at the door, her blonde hair swept into an elegant updo, her smile tight as she took in Lena. "Ethan, darling," she said, air-kissing his cheek. "Who's this lovely guest?" "Lena Harper," he said, resting a hand on Lena's back. "She's been consulting for us. Thought she'd enjoy the night." Maggie's eyes flickered, polite but cool. "How nice. Welcome, Lena. I hope you enjoy yourself." Her tone said, "Don't get too comfortable," but Ethan brushed it off. His mom was just old school, he told himself. She'd warm up. The night rolled on. Small talk with donors, a speech about the foundation's commitment to Atlanta's future. The usual schmooze. Lena handled it like a pro, charming a tech mogul with her take on urban sustainability, laughing at Ethan's terrible dance moves when they hit the floor. But he couldn't shake the feeling of eyes on them. Curious glances from the old guard, whispers behind wine glasses. It wasn't until Henry cornered him by the bar that the hammer dropped. His dad was all steel gray hair and sharp edges, a whiskey neat in one hand, his voice low and cutting. "What the hell's this, Ethan? Bringing your consultant to a family event? You trying to make a statement?" Ethan stiffened, setting his beer down. "It's not a statement, Dad. She's my date. What's the big deal?" "The big deal," Henry hissed, stepping closer, "is that we don't need this kind of attention. She doesn't belong here, and you damn well know it. This isn't a game." "She's not a scandal," Ethan snapped, heat rising in his chest. "She's the realest person I've met in years. Maybe you ought to try talking to someone who doesn't kiss your ass for once." Henry's eyes narrowed, but he didn't push it. Not there, not with 100 guests milling around. "We'll talk later," he said, turning away. Ethan watched him go, jaw tight, a knot forming in his gut. He'd seen that look before. Disapproval, cold and final. But he wasn't a kid anymore. He could handle it. Lena caught his eye from across the room, tilting her head like she knew something was up. He forced a smile, but the night felt off after that, tainted, like a crack in a windshield you couldn't unsee. A week later, the crack got wider. Ethan was at the family estate in Druid Hills, a sprawling brick mansion with oak trees older than the city itself. He'd gone to grab some old files from the library, tax stuff for a deal, when he found it. A leather-bound ledger tucked behind a row of dusty encyclopedias. The spine was cracked, the pages yellowed, but the handwriting was unmistakable. Walter Caldwell's, his grandfather, the man who'd turned a small real estate gig into an empire. He flipped it open, curious, and froze. Dates, addresses, dollar amounts. Properties in West End, a historically black neighborhood just west of downtown. March 1955, 142 Auburn Ave, $500. Foreclosed, resold, $12,000. June 1956, 87. Ashby C., $450. Owner evicted, flipped for $15,000. Page after page, a ledger of theft. Homes bought dirt cheap from desperate families, then flipped for profit as the area was redeveloped into high-rises and parking lots. At the bottom of one page, a note. Keep pushing west. They can't hold out forever. Ethan's hands shook as he closed the book. He'd grown up hearing Walter's stories, railroads, grit, the American dream. But this was no dream. This was a hustle, built on kicking folks when they were down. He shoved the ledger back, heart pounding, telling himself it was ancient history. Different times, different rules, right? That night, back in his penthouse, he couldn't sleep. The Rothko stared at him, its reds darker than ever. Lena's voice kept echoing in his head, something she'd said at the Gala, casual but sharp. "You ever wonder how your family got so rich, Ethan? Like, really wonder?" He'd laughed it off then, tossed back some line about hard work and good timing. Now, it stuck like a splinter. He poured a bourbon, pacing the hardwood floor, the city lights blurring through the window. Was this what she'd meant? Did she know something he didn't? Or was he just paranoid, seeing ghosts in a past he'd never questioned? He wanted to call her, ask her straight up, but it was 2 a.m., and the words wouldn't come anyway. Instead, he stood there, glass in hand, staring at his reflection in the glass. A man who'd always thought he was on top, now wondering if the ground beneath him was quicksand. The Gala had been a warning shot. The ledger was a gut punch, and Ethan Caldwell, for the first time in his charmed life, didn't know what to do next. Ethan Caldwell didn't know it yet, but the weeks after that gala were the calm before the storm. For a while, life felt good. Better than good. Lena Harper had slipped into his world like she'd always belonged there, and he wasn't about to fight it. Their meetings at Caldwell Properties stretched into dinners at spots like Mary Mac's Tea Room, where they'd split plates of fried chicken and collards, laughing over her stories of growing up on Chicago's South Side. One Sunday, they wandered through Piedmont Park, the skyline peeking through the trees, her teasing him about his terrible aim when they tossed a frisbee. "You're hopeless, Caldwell," she'd said, grinning as he chased it into the grass. It wasn't just the big moments that got to him. It was the small stuff, the way she'd hum Nina Simone tunes while scribbling notes, the smell of vanilla from the candles in her little 5 Points apartment, the quiet way she'd listen when he rambled about a deal gone sideways. He'd never had this before. Someone who didn't care about his last name or his bank account. Someone who saw him, not the Caldwell crown, and damn if he didn't start seeing himself differently too. One night, after a long walk along the Beltline, they ended up at her place. The living room was cozy, books stacked on every surface, a beat-up couch covered in throw pillows, a record player spinning Stevie Wonder. She poured them wine, cheap stuff from Trader Joe's, nothing like the vintage bottles in his penthouse, and they sat cross-legged on the floor, talking until the city outside went quiet. "You ever think about what you'd do if you weren't Ethan Caldwell?" she asked, swirling her glass. "Like if you didn't have all this?" He leaned back, caught off guard. "I don't know. Never had to think about it. This is who I am. Born into it, raised for it. What about you? You could have gone Wall Street, made a killing. Why didn't you?" Lena shrugged, her eyes distant. "Money's nice, but it's not everything. My folks taught me that. They worked their asses off. Dad at a high school, Mom at a community college, so I could have a shot. I wanted to use it for something bigger than a fat paycheck." He watched her, the glow of the lamp catching the curve of her jaw. "You're something else. You know that?" She smirked, setting her glass down. "And you're trouble, Ethan Caldwell. But I kinda like it." That was the night he kissed her. Slow at first, then deeper, her hands finding his shoulders, his pulling her close. It wasn't fireworks or some movie bullshit. It was real, raw, like a door swinging open he hadn't known was there. After that, they didn't look back. Dinners turned into sleepovers. Work talk turned into dreams. He started imagining a future, something he'd never let himself do before. But the ledger he'd found in Druid Hills wouldn't let him rest. He'd shoved it to the back of his mind, told himself it was old news, but it gnawed at him. Late at night, when Lena was asleep beside him, he'd lie awake, picturing those addresses in West End, families pushed out, lives upended, all so Walter Caldwell could build his empire. He wanted to tell her, ask her what she thought, but the words stuck. What if she saw him differently? What if she walked away? The breaking point came on a rainy Thursday. Ethan was at his penthouse, sorting through emails, when the doorman buzzed up. "Package for you, Mr. Caldwell. No sender." He took the elevator down, grabbed the manila envelope, and ripped it open on the way back up. Inside were photocopies, deeds, memos, news clippings, all stamped with the Caldwell Properties logo. The same stuff from the ledger, but worse. Bank records showing predatory loans, donations to segregationist campaigns in the 60s, even a lawsuit buried with a fat settlement, and pinned to the top, a note in Lena's handwriting. "Know who you're really with." His knees buckled. He sank onto the couch, papers spilling across the glass table. She knew. She'd found out. How, he didn't know. And she'd sent him this. Not a call, not a text. Just this cold, hard truth. Thunder rumbled outside, rain streaking the windows, mirroring the chaos in his head. He drove to her place through the storm, the Porsche hydroplaning on slick streets. When she opened the door, her face was a mask, eyes red, jaw tight, arms crossed over a faded UChicago sweatshirt. The apartment smelled like coffee and damp air. Papers from the envelope spread across her coffee table like a crime scene. "Lena," he started, voice hoarse. "Let me explain." "Explain what?" She cut in, her tone sharp enough to slice. "That you knew this and didn't tell me. That you let me walk into your family's gala, smile at those people when this," she jabbed a finger at the papers, "is who they are, who you are." "I didn't know all of it," he said, stepping inside despite her glare. "I found some stuff a few weeks ago, an old ledger, but I didn't know the half of it. I swear, Lena, I was trying to figure it out." "Weeks?" Her voice cracked, disbelief flashing in her eyes. "You've known for weeks and didn't say a damn thing? I trusted you, Ethan. I let you in, my home, my life, and you couldn't even warn me?" "I was scared," he admitted, hands balling into fists. "Scared you'd look at me like you're looking at me now, like I'm some monster." She laughed, bitter and hollow. "You think this is about you? My grandma lived in West End, Ethan. She lost her house in '58, couldn't keep up with the payments after the bank jacked up the rates. Your granddaddy bought it for peanuts, turned it into a parking lot. I grew up hearing that story, and now I'm sleeping with the guy whose family made it happen." Her words hit like a punch. He staggered back, rain dripping from his hair onto her hardwood floor. "I'm not him, Lena. I'm not Walter. I didn't do this." "But you're living it," she said, stepping closer, tears brimming but not falling. "Every jet, every penthouse, every damn suit, it's all from that. And you didn't even blink until I shoved it in your face." "I'm trying to fix it," he pleaded. "I just needed time." "Time's up," she said, voice breaking. "I need space, Ethan. I can't do this right now." "Lena, please." "Go," she said, turning away. "Just go." He stood there, soaked and shaking, then walked out into the rain. The door clicked shut behind him, final as a gunshot. Back in his penthouse, he collapsed onto the couch, staring at the Rothko. Its reds, now a smear of guilt, a mirror to the mess he'd become. The next morning, Henry called. "Board's pissed," he barked. "Your little fling's leaked, photos, headlines, the works. End it, Ethan, or you're out. No company, no trust, no nothing." Ethan didn't answer. He just hung up, the phone slipping from his hand. In one night, he'd lost the woman he loved and the life he'd known. And the worst part? He wasn't sure he deserved either one anymore. The days after Lena kicked Ethan Caldwell out of her apartment blurred into a haze of regret and bourbon. He'd wake up on the couch in his midtown penthouse, the city's hum a dull roar through the windows, the Rothko painting glaring down like a judge. Sleep was a stranger. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her face, heard her voice. "You're living it, Ethan." The package she'd sent still sat on his coffee table, a ticking bomb he couldn't bring himself to touch again. He'd lost her, and the weight of it was crushing him. But the hits just kept coming. Henry didn't waste time. 2 days after their phone call, Ethan walked into Caldwell Properties for a board meeting, expecting a slap on the wrist. Instead, he got ambushed. The conference room was packed. Suits, ties, and grim faces, Henry at the head like a king on a throne. On the projector screen, grainy tabloid shots of Ethan and Lena, laughing at the gala, walking the belt line, her red dress a splash of color against his navy jacket. The headline screamed, "Caldwell heirs forbidden fling sparks family feud." "What the hell is this?" Ethan demanded, dropping his briefcase on the table. Henry didn't blink. "This is you screwing us, son. The board's had it. Stock's down 3 points since this broke." You're a liability. A liability. Ethan's voice rose, heat creeping up his neck. Because I'm dating someone you don't approve of? This is bullshit, Dad. It's not about approval, Henry snapped, slamming a hand on the table. It's about the Caldwell name. You think we got here by chasing skirts and making headlines? End it. Today. Or you're out. No company, no trust, no inheritance. Your call. Ethan stared at him, the room silent except for the hum of the AC. He'd heard threats before, Henry's favorite power play, but this was different. This was final. You'd cut me off over this? He asked, quieter now, searching his dad's face for a crack. I'd cut you off to save what I built, Henry said, cold as steel. Sign the papers, morality clause, non-disclosure, or walk out that door for good. Ethan didn't sign. He grabbed his briefcase and stormed out, the glass doors rattling behind him. By noon, his keycard didn't work. By 3 p.m., his company email was locked. Taylor, his assistant, texted, "They're boxing up your office. I'm so sorry." He didn't reply. He drove aimlessly through Atlanta, past the gold dome of the Capitol, down Ponce de Leon, the city a blur of noise and neon. He ended up at a dive bar in East Atlanta Village, knocking back whiskey until the bartender cut him off. But Ethan wasn't done digging. If Lena was right, if his family's wealth was poison, he needed proof. He hired a private historian, a wiry guy named Marcus with a knack for unearthing buried records. They met at a coffee shop in Decatur, the air thick with espresso and rain. Marcus slid a folder across the table. Court docs, deeds, old city council minutes. Your granddad didn't just buy cheap, Marcus said, tapping a page. He rigged the game, redlining, fake appraisals, payoffs to banks. West End was his gold mine. And your dad? He's still fighting affordable housing there. Check the lobbying receipts. Ethan flipped through it, nausea rising. It wasn't just Walter. Henry was in it too, right now, today, blocking projects that could have helped the same neighborhoods they'd gutted decades ago. He thanked Marcus, paid him double, and drove to West End the next morning, determined to see it for himself. The neighborhood was a mix of grit and pride, shotgun houses with peeling paint, murals on brick walls, kids riding bikes past a soul food joint pumping out the smell of fried catfish. Ethan parked near a community center, an old building with chipped stucco and a sign reading West End Resilience Hub. Inside, a meeting was wrapping up, folks in folding chairs, talking about a new housing initiative. He lingered at the back, feeling out of place in his Brooks Brothers shirt, until an older woman with silver hair and sharp eyes approached him. You lost, son? She asked, her voice a mix of suspicion and steel. No, ma'am, Ethan said, shifting his weight. I'm Ethan Caldwell. I wanted to... Caldwell? Her face hardened. I'm Evelyn Brooks. I know your people. Your granddaddy took my mama's house in '57, $600, all she got after the bank foreclosed, turned it into some fancy office lot. What you want here? Ethan swallowed, the air heavy between them. I found out about it, about what he did. I'm trying to make it right. I've got resources, I can... Make it right? Evelyn cut him off, her laugh bitter. Boy, you don't fix a lifetime of hurt with a checkbook. You're just another rich kid living off our pain. Get out. I'm not him, Ethan said, voice cracking. I'm trying to... Try somewhere else, she snapped, turning away. The room went quiet, eyes on him, and he left, head down, the weight of her words sinking in. Back home, the storm broke wide open. Henry went nuclear, leaked a press release calling Ethan a disloyal son who'd lost his way. The AJC ran it front page, Caldwell dynasty crumbles as air rebels. Social media lit up, old money types trashing him, activists calling him a hypocrite playing savior. His phone buzzed non-stop. Friends, exes, even his mom, Maggie, pleading, "Darling, fix this. You're tearing us apart." He turned it off, poured another drink, and watched the rain lash his windows. The final blow came that night. He drove to the Druid Hills mansion, his childhood home, all brick and ivy, to grab some stuff he'd left in storage. The gate wouldn't open. He punched in the code. Nothing. A security guard rolled up in a golf cart, apologetic but firm. "Sorry, Mr. Caldwell. Orders from your father. Locks changed this morning." Ethan stood there, soaked to the bone, staring at the house he'd grown up in. The porch where he'd skinned his knees, the oak tree he'd climbed, the study where Henry had taught him market trends over breakfast, all gone, locked away like he'd never belonged. He laughed, a hollow sound swallowed by the storm, and drove back to the penthouse. He collapsed on the floor, bourbon bottle half empty beside him. The Rothko loomed overhead, a bloody smear of a life he didn't recognize anymore. Evelyn's words echoed. Living off our pain. Henry's ultimatum. End it, or you're out. Lena's goodbye. I need space. He'd lost the company, the family, the woman he loved. And for what? To chase a truth he couldn't outrun? Rock bottom wasn't a place, it was a feeling, and Ethan was drowning in it. He didn't know if he could climb out. Didn't know if he deserved to. All he knew was the rain kept falling, and he was out of moves. Hey folks, Ethan's down for the count. Subscribe to see if he gets back up and drop a comment. Ever hit a low where everything you knew slipped away? How'd you keep going? Let's talk. Ethan Caldwell woke up on the hardwood floor of his penthouse, the empty bourbon bottle rolling beside him, the Atlanta skyline swallowed by a gray dawn through rain-streaked windows. It had been 10 days since Henry locked him out of the Druid Hills mansion. 10 days since Evelyn Brooks shut him down. 10 days since he'd lost every anchor he'd ever known. Company, family, Lena. The Rothko painting loomed above, its dark swirls a silent taunt. He was a shell, stripped of the suits, the jets, the life he'd worn like armor. All that was left was a man with a question he couldn't answer. Who am I now? He hauled himself to the bathroom, the cold tile biting his bare feet. The mirror reflected a wreck, stubble thick as a briar patch, eyes sunken, a stranger staring back. "Get up," he muttered, splashing water on his face. "You don't get to quit." The words felt hollow, but sitting in his own mess wasn't an option anymore. Midday, the doorman buzzed. "Package for you, Mr. Caldwell." Ethan trudged downstairs, expecting another bill or a lawyer's summons. Instead, it was a wooden box, rough-hewn, his name scratched on top. Inside, a silver ring, worn smooth, engraved MC 1942. A note fluttered out, Maggie's handwriting shaky but sure. "This was your grandma's. She'd want you to fight, Ethan. You're my last hope. Maggie." He clutched the ring, its weight grounding him. Maggie hadn't called since her tearful pleas, torn between Henry's iron grip and her love for her son. This was her quiet rebellion, a lifeline thrown across the wreckage. That night, Jim Dawson showed up, rain-soaked and steady, brushing off Ethan's offer of a drink. They sat in the dim penthouse, the storm's growl seeping through the walls. "Been waiting for you to call," Jim said, his gravelly voice cutting the silence. "Figured you'd either break or build something. Which is it?" Ethan held up the ring, voice raw. "Mom sent this. Says I'm her hope. But I'm running on fumes, Jim. No family, no Lena, no damn clue what's left of me." Jim leaned forward, eyes sharp. "You've been shackled to that Caldwell name since you were a kid. Henry gave you a bullshit choice. Keep the throne or lose the girl. But there's another path. Build something that's yours, Not theirs. You've got cash Henry can't touch. Use it. Only catch? You've got to let go of who you thought you were. The words hit hard. Ethan stared at the ring, Jim's voice echoing Lena's. You've only seen life from the penthouse. He'd been terrified of losing the Caldwell legacy, but maybe it was the cage he needed to escape. By morning, a flicker of a plan took root. He cashed out what he could: stocks, savings, a slice of his trust, enough to start, not enough to coast. He rented a dingy office in Decatur, a desk wedged between peeling walls, a coffee maker, coughing like it was dying. He named it the Caldwell Restitution Fund, a promise, not a handout. First step, West End. Marcus, the historian, delivered more dirt. Names, dates, deeds tracing Walter's trail of ruin. Ethan returned to the West End Resilience Hub, a folder in hand, no suit this time, just jeans and a worn jacket. Evelyn Brooks was there, her silver hair catching the light, her eyes narrowing as he approached. "You don't listen, do you?" she said, arms crossed tight. "Told you to stay gone." "I heard you," Ethan said, setting the folder down. "This isn't about me sleeping better at night. It's about your mom's house, 87 Ashby Street. Foreclosed 57, sold to Walter for $600. I can't fix that, but I can try. Housing support, legal help, whatever you need. No catch." Evelyn's gaze bore into him. "You think you can waltz in here with papers and play hero? My mama cried herself sick when they took that house. You don't erase that." "I know," he said, voice steady. "I'm not asking for forgiveness, just a chance to do something right." She snatched the folder, flipping through it, then tossed it back. "Your money's dirty. I'd rather sleep on the street than take it." She walked off, leaving him with the sting of her words and a room full of wary stares. It wasn't the start he'd hoped for. It was a brick wall. Back in Decatur, he hit another snag. The fund's first pitch, to partner with a local housing nonprofit, fell apart when the director Googled him. "Caldwell? As in the Caldwells? No thanks. We don't need your PR stunt." Ethan sat alone in the office that night, the whiteboard blank, the coffee cold. Failure tasted bitter, sharper than the bourbon he'd sworn off. Maybe Evelyn was right. Maybe he couldn't outrun the stain. Then Maggie called, her voice trembling through the line. "Ethan, I saw the news. Your fund. Henry's furious, says you're ruining us. But I'm proud of you, even if I can't say it to his face." She paused, a sob catching. "I wanted to fight once. After I found Walter's files. He threatened to take you from me if I did. I chose you, but I chose wrong." "Mom," Ethan said, throat tight, "you don't have to pick sides now. Just keep that ring safe for me, okay?" "I will," she whispered. "Be better than us, Ethan." The call ended, her words a fragile bridge across the rift. Weeks later, he tracked Lena to a seminar at Morehouse, standing in the shadows as she lit up the room with her fire. When the students cleared out, she saw him. Jeans faded, no tie, a man reshaped by loss. "You look like hell," she said, arms crossed, her tone guarded. "I feel it," he said, handing her a folder. Resignation letter, fund docs, a list of rejections. "I'm not here to beg you back, Lena. I'm showing you I'm in this, failing half the time, but in it. I miss you, but this isn't about us." She scanned the papers, her silence heavy. "You're still fighting, even after I walked away?" "Had to," he said. "You showed me what's real. I can't unsee it, even if I'm screwing it up." Lena's eyes softened, but her voice held firm. "My grandma's story. It's not just history, Ethan. It's me. I can't pretend it doesn't cut. But this, She tapped the folder. It's something. Not enough. Not yet. I'll advise your fund. But us? I need time. I'll take it, he said, a flicker of hope sparking. Time's all I've got left to give. Months crawled by. The fund limped along. Evelyn came around grudgingly, after a lawyer friend vetted it, agreeing to a pilot project for 3 families. 1 title restored, 2 stalled in red tape. Lena shaped it from the sidelines, her notes sharp and her presence a quiet challenge. Henry called once, desperate, stock down 20%, offering a payout to shut it down. Ethan hung up, the line dead. One humid afternoon, Ethan stood in a half-built garden in West End, dirt under his nails, a jeep parked nearby, no penthouse in sight. Evelyn handed him a shovel, her voice gruff. You're still a Caldwell, but you're digging. Keep it up. Maybe I'll stop hating you. Lena watched from a bench, a faint smile breaking through. No ring yet, no promises, just a nod that said we're here. Ethan wasn't whole, not yet. The past still clawed at him, the fund teetered, and Lena's trust was a thread, not a rope. But as the sun dipped low, he drove his jeep through Old Fourth Ward, Maggie's ring in his pocket, and felt something new. Not wealth, not power, but a chance. Wealth wasn't what he'd lost. It was what he might build, one messy, honest step at a time. Hey, y'all. Ethan's story pauses here, not perfect, but moving. Subscribe, drop a comment. What's the hardest truth you've faced? What's one fight you're still digging for? Let's keep the conversation alive.